Welcome to the Upshot, Multi-World Disc Golf's podcast about the latest in the disc golf world. I'm the editor, Charlie Eisenhood. Joining me, Josh Mansfield. It is Thursday, November 2nd. And Josh, it's true. The off season, it's like really here now. It's like this is the first show since this season started where I was like, I really just don't know what we're going to talk about today.
Well, and it's not even, I mean, we've had some shows where it's like, wow, it's been a little bit quiet, but like there's this thing that we need to hit, or we've neglected to do this for a while. It's the off season.
It's the off season. Welcome. We're here.
It is the off season.
And there's no real like player drama moves yet. So it's just pretty much like we're chilling. It's probably going to be this way through Thanksgiving. I hate to make predictions about the off season because I just get them wrong constantly, but that's what I got. But I thought it would be good. Number one, we're going to hit the mailbag today. Great chance to catch up. We haven't done one in a while. Number two, we got to look back at some predictions from the year and look back at how we did in the predictions department. Now, Josh, I missed the primary Upshot predictions episode. I don't even remember why. I was out for some reason. I couldn't go. Couldn't do it.
Yeah. We had Dan instead. So we did the overreaction show after Las Vegas,
right.
which is like one of my favorite shows of the year.
Dan Prentice and Josh made their overreactions and predictions for the season. So Josh, tell us what some of your predictions were. Let's evaluate them.
Yeah. Okay. So we'll start off with the first one, which was not so hot. Kevin Jones is going to win 2 events this year. Ice cold. That.
I like
way too early.
I like the concept, you know, if you like think back, it's like, okay, he kind of had an off year. He's going to bounce back.
Mm-hmm. Right. Had a good Vegas. I think he was like third at Vegas.
That's right. And see, that's the other thing is that you had the Vegas brain.
Right. Yeah. That one's pretty bad. My second prediction though, Holland Hanley wins a major this season.
We're going to give it it's a win with an asterisk, Josh.
Is it a little? It's a little W win
with a little star.
Just like Holland's is a little M major, and my win is a little W.
Holland winning gets an asterisk, and your prediction gets an asterisk.
That's
no, but I mean, I like it. I have a question for you that I was thinking about this for like later. No, I'm going to save it. Do not let me forget about the Holland question. Okay, just say if I forget, say the Holland question
in this show
later today during the mailbag. We'll get there.
All right, I'll ask you. Okay, so yeah, I'm happy with that prediction. That one turned out okay. Third prediction. This is another one of those is super great. Katrina, Paige, and Kristen account for 18 of the 21 Elite Series or major wins this season. They accounted for 13 of the 21.
Now I will say. I like that you stuck your neck out with this one and said we're going to just see total dominance from the big three.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not like you were way off, you know? If you imagine Paige didn't get hurt and Katrina didn't just like completely forget how to play disc golf,
mm-hmm.
I think that you would have been pretty close. I think that they would have each picked up a win or two more and you would have been close. Now, 18 out of 21 was always going to be a reach. And I think we didn't necessarily recognize at the time. Was this including silvers?
No. Just elites and majors.
They only won 13? That's crazy. But like, you know, Haley and Missy and Owen, like they raised their level of play at least in ways. So, okay. But you weren't way off. You should have just said Kristen is going to win half of things.
That's what I should have said. It was funny because I remember mentioning to you after European or just before European Open. I think there was only one. I think it was Kat Murch is the only one who had won an event. Oh, Kat and Haley. So 2 events pretty much halfway through numerically, like 10, 11 events of the 21. They had won half of them. And I was feeling, so there was 2 of them. And I was like, okay, maybe I'm going to be like, maybe it'll be 4, right? 4 or 5. Like that's still pretty good. And then Paige breaks her leg and Katrina just goes ice cold and went downhill very quickly.
And for as great a season as Kristen had, she also lost about half the time.
Yeah. Dang it, Kristen. I can't believe you.
Just weak. weak season.
only winning half the events. Final prediction. This one we cannot confirm yet, but Calvin wins Player of the Year.
He's the odds-on favorite.
He is.
He's the odds-on favorite. I mean, I managed to convince you.
Yeah, you did. You did. Looking back, I can't believe that was it's funny that was an overreaction, right? Like a hot take.
Yeah. Well, because Ricky had won it the year prior.
Mm-hmm.
And Calvin had been good, but not like he was this year.
No.
Okay, so now we also did our 2 early predictions for the majors in March.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I pulled the data from that. Okay, so first of all, the only things that we got right were Kristen Tatar winning tournaments. And not only that, but we only picked Kristen between us. We did 5 events: Champions Cup, European Open, Worlds, US Women's, and then Winthrop. So US DGC and Throw Pink. We comboed it. We only picked Kristen a total of 3 times out of the 10 slots for FPO players. I had her winning Worlds, and that was it. And you had her winning US Women's and Throw Pink. So you got a point there. I got a point with that. Otherwise, literally all of our predictions were wrong.
Yeah.
We got nothing in MPO. Nothing. Now, how many people would have picked correctly in MPO? I don't know. Not an easy year to predict.
I feel like Kyle Klein is probably the only...
That's the one that people could have gotten. There's an absolutely 0% chance anyone would have picked Corey Ellis to win European Open.
Mm-hmm.
If you claim you would have, you are a liar. Maybe somebody picks Isaac to win Champions Cup, but probably not Worlds.
Yeah.
But I could see Champions Cup. It's like he's from there.
Mm-hmm.
He's a good player in the woods. Like I could at least see that pick, but he wasn't in the conversation for us, if I recall.
I think you're right. And the Worlds thing, I know some people like picked him for Worlds, but that was only after he won Champions.
Right. This was all preseason stuff.
This pre-everything.
So who did we pick? Well, let's run through it. At the Champions Cup, we'll start at MPO. You had Kyle Klein, and I had Calvin Heimberg. At European Open, you had Calvin Heimberg, and I had Paul Macbeth. So for as much as a Calvin hater as you've been this whole season, you did pick him to win a major.
I did pick him to win a major.
At Worlds, you had Macbeth. I had Rick. At USDGC, you had Paul. I had Calvin. So I had Calvin winning 2 majors. You had Paul winning 2 majors. We had Paul and Calvin combined winning 6 of the 8 majors slots that we had available, right? And they didn't win anything.
They didn't win a thing.
I mean, when you think about it, it's actually kind of shocking that Macbeth and Calvin, the greatest player of the last 10 years, and possibly the best player of the next 10 years, or the next 8 plus the 2 or whatever, that they won none.
Yeah.
Talk about a change in era, and even just sort of composition of the way that disc golf works. Normally, the best player wins multiple majors in a season.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe that's
usually
why
the best player wins.
Vote for Isaac Robinson for Player of the Year.
Usually the best player of the season wins a major.
Yeah.
Right?
But Ricky at Worlds, you get a half point for picking Kyle at Champions Cup.
Yeah, I got Kyle Klein. I said he's going to win a major. Picked the wrong one, but which in hindsight, why? Of course Kyle Klein was going to win USDGC if he was going to win anything.
Over on FPO, at Champions Cup, you had Missy, I had Paige. At European, you had Paige, I had Ella. Of course, at that point, Paige was not playing, right? At European.
Yep.
Man, she's been out a long time. Dang. At Worlds, you had Katrina, and I had Kristen. At US Women's, you had Kristen, I had Own. I feel I don't deserve a half point, but I want to get a half point for having faith in Own. You understand?
Right. I feel you.
And then at Throw Pink, you had Kristen and I had Henna. I rode all the way into my grave with Henna this year at Throw Pink. Off the cliff.
Yes.
She's going to do it.
You said right from the get go, like, I'm going to jump off that cliff, and nobody believed you, and then you jumped off the cliff.
So yeah,
And I, of course, I managed to put Kristen in the only major that she didn't win. So that was loads of fun.
what I think is interesting is that we almost picked more diversity of players in FPO than we did in MPO, which in retrospect just seems nonsensical. But I also would say we did correctly identify the best players of the 2023 season. I mean, even before she got hurt, Paige still had won tournaments. And then did she win two? Had Missy, Kat, Kristen, Owen, Ella, and Henna. Now, you could quibble with Ella and Henna a little bit, I guess, but it's not like these were like off the wall crazy picks.
Yeah. In fact, if anything, like I would say that our MPO picks were kind of like, I mean, at least Paul, right? I mean, that ended up going way poorly, and we had him winning 3 majors.
I know, it's crazy. Very interesting. I'm like already thinking ahead to what will my picks be for next year.
Well, and here's the other thing that I want to mention.
And when do we get to make them? Do we get to make our 2 early picks in like June for MPO? Like,
no, I think that feels like cheating.
I know.
I'd rather.
Yeah, you want to get them on. You want to get them on the board in January or February.
Yeah. So here's the things that I want to point out though that I think are interesting, right? So these are predictions based on the 2022 season. Ricky comes off Player of the Year, where he had an ultra consistent season, very similar to Calvin's this year.
Yep.
And Paul had won a major, and because he won Worlds last year, and was he close to winning something else? European Open, yeah. He lost to Eagle in the European Open showdown.
In the McBattle.
Yeah. I always think back and I'm like, oh yeah, Paul won 2 majors, and then I forget that no, Eagle stole that from him. And so
yeah, Rick won Ledgestone, GMC, Pro Tour Championship, top 10 all the time. He won DDO. He won Texas States. He had a really good year in 2022.
He did. He won Player of the Year. So
I think
hindsight,
he definitely had a better season last year than Calvin did this year.
Oh, interesting. I want to compare that. I'd like to sit down and look at
Well, let's go through it. We can do it right now. I just gave you the wins. He won Texas States. That's 1.
Yep.
DDO is 2. Ledgestone is 3. GMC is 4. He shared the Ledgestone win with Calvin, right, last year.
That's right.
And then he won the Pro Tour Championship. So has 5 wins. Calvin only won twice.
Mm-hmm. That
is there more to say? I mean, he had a bad Des Moines Challenge. Ricky did 57th, and he finished outside the top 10 3 other times at European, Idlewild, and Waco. He wasn't on the podium maybe quite as much as Calvin, but I feel like for me, 5 wins easily outweighs that, considering that he still did have multiple other podium finishes. He was second at Champions Cup. He was second at Preserve. He was third at D-Glow.
So, okay, I guess that's because you said that if Isaac had won one more event, that closes the door for you in Isaac's Player of the Year.
Yes.
Okay. Then that adds up. That adds up. Because you're like, oh yeah, 5 wins, easy. And I'm like, it wasn't the majors thing, like 4 wins in our head?
But I think that
you're
what
right.
it takes to win this award has changed. You used to have to win half the events, or at least that's how it played out. And it's just not how it is. Well, somebody did Gannon Burr had 4 wins, 3 wins. Did anybody get to 4?
Gannon had 3. No one
Nobody
had 4.
got to 4.
Yeah.
Now here's one.
Yeah, because
did Simon Lizotte have a better 2022 than Calvin had a 2023?
Simon had 3 wins?
4, I think. Oh, man. I'll pull it up. Because I remember it was 4 because it was like, what a crazy year. But then he had horrible finishes at other tournaments. He won MVP,
right.
Des Moines,
Yeah.
Portland OTB. He was podium at DDO, Preserve, top 5 at Pro Tour Championship. Otherwise, he was like outside the top 20 a lot of the time.
I'm gonna say, man, if I say yes, I'm gonna reopen the player of the year.
No.
Like,
we're not gonna do that.
that.
Everything is on its own tier, but like, I don't know. I honestly, is 4 wins enough to overcome? Maybe not. It's really close.
It is
It's close. I feel like they're comparable.
Yeah, I think
Simon did get
you're probably right.
Monster contract. He got the bag, and you got to give him credit for that. So I'm going to say he had the better season than Calvin did this year.
Pound's the best of the best. It's the quality, the craftsmanship, the vision for what a bag could be. Let's start from the beginning. I didn't choose Pound, I chose Levi. I trusted Levi to make the best bag possible.
He's always trying to innovate. He wants it to be perfect. And I think he's the kind of guy that nothing's ever perfect.
I trust the product. I trust the people behind the product.
At this point, I don't think anyone's disputing that it's the best made bag.
All right, let's go to the mailbag. Josh, what's up first in our bag of letters today?
Yeah, this was an email that came from Robert, and I want to get your take before I talk about it, because I think this is really interesting. He says, hot take, any pro disc golfer that has a tour card should not have a PDGA rating. They should just be ranked whatever number they are in the world based on their tour card standing. Get away from ratings. Everyone that doesn't have a tour card keeps that rating until they get the tour card, and then I would assume that, let's say you lose your tour card, you get to adjust back to the rating system. What are your thoughts?
So but basically the concept is I'm not even allowed to know what their rating is. Like, it's just completely gone.
It's just, I mean, it's not like if you have an inactive PDGA membership where you lose your rating and it
here's what I'd say. Robert, there's nothing stopping you from doing this right now. You can just not look at their rating, and you can look at their standings. I think that they both have validity. And to me, I think it's interesting to be able to compare players based on their average performance rather than just how they place at like tour events. Now, when it comes down to things like who had the best season, I'm literally never looking at the rating. I do not care. But I think it's still this interesting metric that allows you to do some kind of cross comparison, both between players right now, pros and AMs, as well as players across time. So when somebody hits that threshold, like, it is going to be justifiably big news when an FPO player hits 1,000 rating. Mm-hmm. So if Kristen pulls it off next year, that's going to be a milestone that is forever remembered, and will probably get a little like shrine in the Hall of Fame when she's obviously already locked to be a Hall of Famer. And so I don't know. I hear this, right? This is like a Brodyism, right? Like, this is like a Brody thing where he's like, who cares? And he's not wrong. Like, it doesn't matter what essentially your handicap is, but I still find it to be a useful metric for comparison of players. Although during the season, I really don't look at it except for when they change.
Sure. Here's what I'll say, actually. And I'm one who actually typically enjoys the ratings, but I think this is a fascinating discussion. And the reason why is because I think that there are problems when non-tour players, and I guess it's not even a problem per se, right? But when non-tour or when tour players go and play non-tour events, and their rating becomes changed by events that they went and shot a 1080 at a C tier,
sure,
or like Memorial, for example, I think that can create false senses of expectations. Number one, around European players, especially at times, but other players who, like in the off season, Anthony Barella. Remember how high we are on Anthony Barella, and now he did have the best season of his career. But he went to Arizona and shot 2 1090 rounds, and everyone was like, "Oh my gosh, Anthony Barella is going to win everything this year." It does create false senses of narratives. Sure. I think it'd be interesting that when you're a tour card holder, the only thing that matters are like tour points and your standing in tour and your ranking.
But it is
tour,
what
and
matters.
That's it.
Who is looking at rating for anything besides like a comparative tool? I doubt sponsors care what your rating is.
I mean, Paul Macbeth sold a disc with it on there.
Well, but that's what I'm saying.
When he hit,
you still have these milestone opportunities based on this metric that players have this number that tracks them from when they were a child in some cases or an amateur all the way up through their professional life. And you can see this ebb and flow over time that is obviously going to be almost directly correlated to their performance on tour.
I think that's probably becoming true. I think I agree more with Robert 3 years ago when players were playing tons and tons of like non-tour events,
where it's like muddying the waters with the.
It really was, but I think your point with like why like you don't look at ratings, like just make them invisible. They still can even track those rounds and they count, but they just disappear. And the only thing that those players can see when you're a tour card holder is the Pro Tour. It goes back to an idea though of the consolidation of professional golf is only based around the Pro Tour.
The critical thing about ratings, in my mind, is that it allows us to talk about an amazing round with a number.
Yeah,
like they just shot a 1100 rated round. This was an incredible performance, and that number lets us have something to actually quantify a great performance with. Now, I don't want to open the Pandora's box of wooded courses and everything else, but it's something, right? It's something.
That's a good point. Actually, I think that's the best point about why ratings should still be there, is because we do talk about amazing rounds in rating. I think it's the only thing you and I talk about with ratings. Pretty much. We talk about round ratings every week.
Yeah, we do. And like how good did somebody play? Well, we look at their average round rating. You know, if somebody wins a tournament in MPO shooting 1040, it means everybody played bad.
Yep.
All right. How about this?
Interesting.
Nathan says, what do you think of Discraft's latest release of the Zone Battle Pack? I think it's a great idea to have the people choose what the next zone design should be. I bought 2 of them because the one I like may be the only time it gets released. I like that. Josh, what do you think?
I think this is one of the smartest marketing strategies I've seen in disc golf. It is. I think it's unique. I mean, there are some companies that release like test flight discs, and that's good. But this creates a sense of engagement and buy-in of the us versus them that gets people like involved and engaged and invested, and gets you to drop $50 or more on. I don't know how much they retail for.
I just was on the website. It's $40 for the pair.
$40. I bet there are people who have not spent as much money this year on discs as they did the years before, who still went out and bought the Zone Battle Pack.
I think it's a cool idea. So they basically made 2 Zone GT discs inspired by the Banger GT and the Ringer GT. And then they said, throw them and give us your feedback. And then they're going to make the one that was more popular. It's a cool way of doing essentially market testing in a way that you still make money doing the market testing. Smart.
It's really smart. I think it's brilliant. I think it is brilliant.
I like it.
All right. Next one. Why Are Trees asks, what courses would deserve a spot on the Pro Tour regardless of the tournament director / support, community, money, etc. If those were on tour, where could new epic courses be built to fill in the geographic flow and reach of the tour?
Well, let's go through the silver events of the last 3 years and pick the best courses, and those are probably the ones that deserve a spot. A like tweaked, slightly redesigned De La would be one for me. I would love to see. I mean, people have been talking about Eagles Crossing. Like, does it deserve the hype? Are people still hyped about Eagles Crossing?
It's kind of fallen off.
Like, I mean, they had the debacle last fall. Remember that? That was like right around this time. Yeah. Oh my God, that was such a classic. Did that win our gaff bracket? I can't remember.
No, I really liked it, but I think it lost out to something good.
We'll have to go back and look at that. We'll review our gaff bracket before we do this year's gaff bracket. those are two obvious ones. I mean, there's some phenomenal courses in Europe that are not really on tour. That maybe isn't as fair. What do you? Anything come to mind for you, Josh?
When I read this question, I think Wire Trees is asking, like, what are courses on the Pro Tour right now that if the TDs disappeared and it like the tournament infrastructure around it fell apart, would it still merit being on tour?
Okay, I mean,
so I think your answer's still right. Like, I think both those courses absolutely do, or Daylaw, a tweaked Daylaw does. I think the obvious ones to me, Maple Hill would be on there. I think that it's interesting because when I think of Ledgestone, I think a lot of Ledgestone to me is attributed because of like the prestige around it and the infrastructure and money that goes into Ledgestone. And it's an interesting question if, because I love Northwood, but if that tournament kind of fell apart and was the lowest payout of the year, would it still be with Lake Eureka like a worthwhile tour stop? I think Northwood is, but with Lake Eureka, I think for me the answer is probably yes, but that one gets a little bit trickier because to me it's the structure around the tournament that's such a big deal. I will also say I think Glendoveer absolutely deserves a spot on tour.
Yeah, it's good.
That's the other one in my mind.
It's good.
Yeah.
I'm like run through my head. I think Idlewild.
Yeah,
really
that's a good one.
Course. There's probably courses that we've never even seen on tour, like at any point, that maybe belong in this category. But I think the second question is more interesting to me. Like, where could we fill gaps? Well, we need an awesome Mountain West course. It doesn't exist, as far as I can tell. It doesn't exist.
That is conducive to coverage.
Yes, that has all the things you need. Enough people nearby, cellular coverage, like not just like insane, super steep ski mountain, but you need a great Mountain West course. They should go to New Mexico. I mean, it's not going to cover check the boxes of having enough people around. I can tell you that, but I think there's that would be a gap to be filled. I also think they need to have at least one more tournament in California. I mean, that's a big state that has one tournament right now. It makes no sense to me.
Yeah. It's interesting because, like, when I think of the geographic answer, it's not always conducive to population, travel, course, cellular
the combination
right?
of all of the things. Yeah.
Yeah. It makes it actually like a pretty unique to find good courses.
Can you put a great course near LA? Maybe not. Not right now.
Yeah.
It's hard.
Interesting. This is good question from Wire Trees.
Next one up, Disc Golf Doug. Katrina Allen is obviously going into negotiations for her next contract at a bad time. Unclear to me, by the way, whether or not Katrina is going into new negotiations this year or not. DGA is really tight-lipped about even like the length of the terms of their contracts. So I don't know if she's actually going into negotiations, but let's grant it for the question. Last offseason, there was a discussion about whether Katrina could land a retirement deal. With her slump after Europe this year, her ability to command one of those big multi-year, high-guaranteed contracts has disappeared. Who else is hitting their negotiations at the right or wrong time?
This is such a good mailbag. I think there have been some really insightful questions, and yet I still think this one might take the cake for me. It's such a great question because let's start with the Katrina Allen point. Do you think so? There is a premise in this question. It's not even a question. It's a statement. Her ability to command one of the multi-year high guarantee contracts, which he calls a retirement deal. I love that phrase, by the way, has disappeared. Do you agree with that premise, Charlie?
No. I mean,
I think I agree.
I don't agree in the sense that I think like it's clearly obvious that she's not going to get that deal because she had a bad 3 months. I mean, she played awesome before that. She was having one of her better seasons. She won multiple tournaments and her putting had never looked better. I don't really know what happened. Like and to be fair, she has gone through these waves of strong and weak play over her career. This is part of who she is as a player. So
yeah,
I think obviously the market is less than it was, but was she going to get a big, giant, fat contract if she continued to play at the same level? It's not clear to me.
Not clear. Sure. So I think that's the first thing that I'm not convinced on. Though if I were a sponsor who was initially considering doing a multi-year contract, I may just ask for a 1 year with Katrina Allen and see what happens next year and see if she gets over this kind of swing. Like you talked about, that's kind of what her career has been. Who else is hitting the negotiations at the right or wrong time? I'm going to say Eagle. I think he's hitting it at the wrong time. He comes off of
Bad luck.
a season where he is. And that's the thing, right? Is like, if you're Eagle, I still think he's in great shape. But to come off of a season where you lose your win streak and you don't get a win for the first time in 5 years, you have to go into the offseason with shoulder surgery. If he doesn't have a contract locked down right now, that's just a poor time to go into negotiations.
And I just feel bad for Eagle because he signed his previous contract in the winter of 2020, which wasn't the worst time, but
yeah,
if he had been 12 months later, he probably would have gotten a monster contract.
Yeah, he could have commanded Simon money.
Maybe. Because Simon got his bag in 2022.
Yeah.
So Eagle is a little early. And now he's in a spot where he's getting surgery and he's a little late. The market has cooled. It's brutal. It happens.
Yeah. Yeah. I think Gannon's hitting his negotiation at the right time. Oh my gosh.
Though. No kidding. Although I think he would have rather done the deal a year ago.
So I think he would have. Now I want to kind of separate the COVID discussion a little bit, right? Because I understand the market and the market, that means everybody who's going into negotiation this year is hitting it at the wrong time, right? That's my final answer, is that if you are still negotiating a contract and aren't locked down for 10 years, you are going in at it's the wrong time. But pretend the market had stayed flat. Sure. I actually think Gannon having another season where he backs up his major win, because remember, no wins the major. Yeah. Everyone goes, okay, Paige Shue won a major, right? Greg Barsby won a major. There are one-off major winners in our sports history. And so I think Gannon having another year that he backs it up on contract, I think this is actually the perfect time for him to hit his negotiation based on his performance.
It's very clear now. If you were skeptical a year ago about his long-term future, which I don't think I was, but maybe you could be. You could talk yourself into it, maybe.
I think there's reasons to be.
But now it's very obvious that he's got special talent long run, and he's probably the most promising young player. I mean, I guess if you want to argue that it's Isaac Robinson, I would listen, but I don't think I would agree.
I don't either.
I have the list of people who are either on 1 years or expirings, multi-year expirings. So Paige Pierce, terrible spot. Paige Pierce coming off a 4-year deal, has been eclipsed by Kristen at the top, and is hurt. It's bad time. Now, do I think it's going to ruin her negotiations? Probably not, because she's still selling frisbees, and you've got multiple discs that are essentially your discs, Passion and Fierce. And is Discraft gonna let her walk? There's no way, right? So while maybe she could have commanded a bigger deal had she re-signed after 2 years of her deal, right? Before 2022, there's no question, right? She could, if she had renegotiated, which maybe she did. That's the other thing. It's not like these contracts are just fixed and never talked about again. It's possible that they did renegotiate the same way they tore up Macbeth's old contract from 2018 and redrew it 2 years later, or maybe a year later.
It was short,
but it's unquestionably terrible timing for Paige. It feels like she's going to be lucky to get the same deal she's already on, right?
Right. I think you're right.
Nicholas, good timing.
Great
playing
timing.
Good, and Simon left, and Discmania is desperate.
And the Pro Tour going to Europe.
Yeah.
More visibility, more views. Yep. Great time. Good time to be a European who's at the top of their game.
No doubt. Let's see. Missy Gannon, I would say good time. I mean, she's playing awesome.
A couple of good years. Yeah.
And she just had a great finish to the season.
Yep.
And she's getting a little bit older, but like it's not slowing her down. I don't know how, if I'm Missy, I'm trying to like lock up a 4 or 5 year deal if I could.
Agreed.
That's what I would be looking to do. Let's see. Matty O, I would say good time.
Yeah, gets first win.
More higher profile now than he's ever had before.
That's true.
Popular guy. He's going to be one of the most popular people in our fandom survey that's coming out soon.
You know what's the downside though is that Alabama's not that good this year, and when Alabama's good, you talk about Matty O more.
I'm on Alabama -3 this week. There's your free pick of the week.
Who are they playing?
LSU.
Okay.
Let's see. We'll go to the 1 years. Emerson Key. What's up with the Lone Star people? You see this thing? I'm glad I remembered this. Do you see this thing about the dog?
Yeah, I did. I was going to say that.
So I'm just going to paraphrase this thing I saw on Reddit or something. This guy like created a profile for his dog as a dog barks in the background. That's solidarity right there.
My dog wants a contract.
Well, you can get one too. So
I guess so.
He creates a thing and he sends it into Lone Star and asks for sponsorship for his 710 rated dog, and they give it to him. This is so good. It's just so good. I feel like it's so on brand for Lone Star, and I don't even know it's. Did it say dog in the anywhere in it?
I think he said he made up a fake bio for him, so probably not.
That's so funny. Anyway, back to my question. How are the Lone Star people feeling? Most of them signed 1 years.
I mean, they Emerson won a tournament. That's good. But that's good. But Lone Star signed like a bunch of players who no one really thought were going to do anything anyway, and most of them didn't do a whole lot of anything anyway this year as well. So I don't know who's their top player. It's got to be Emerson, right? Where's Nico on the standings? So Nico and Emerson are buddy at 28 and 29 in the standings. Like, it's kind of what I saw coming. Makes the Pro Tour Championship, but just barely. Last year, Nico was 34 with his suspension, and Emerson was 28, exactly where he's at this season. Like, I don't know. I feel like you knew what you were getting. You should have known what you were getting when you got those players.
I just wonder, is Lone Star going to pay the money out again? Like, a lot of these players switched, and keep in mind, they switched because they were getting a better deal from Lone Star.
Mm-hmm.
I have I feel like sentiment on Lone Star has swung from, I love this company, this is so awesome, wow, they're sponsoring me, to this company is a clown show joke. People hate their commercials. That's just the sentiment feeling that I get. I don't even know. Yeah. I know that Ellie Midling throws a lot of Lone Star.
Oh, okay.
Yes. Mostly a Lone Star bag. Not sponsored.
I mean, that's the thing. Like, yeah, I don't know. You got to get a player at the top, right? Like, you got to, and unfortunately, Lone Star.
Some other names I'll throw at you.
Okay.
Let's see, Bradley Williams. I gotta say, good time. I mean, he had his best year as a pro.
Tournament last year?
I think he did. I think he did. You're right.
He won a preserve last year.
Right.
So now, I mean, that's fine. I don't think it's that much worse, but I think he was better last season. I mean, he had a win last season.
How about James Proctor?
Great. I
mean, he's in like the
season.
Infinite Clash, every subcategory sponsorship land, right?
I obviously don't know what his money was, but it sure feels like James Proctor was punching above his weight class sponsorship wise.
Yeah, I agree.
He was talked about. He was on coverage. That's a good.
How about Aaron Gossage?
Bad.
Definitely played worse this year than last.
Yeah, I mean, you want the bag after the showdown with Macbeth. Right?
How about Austin Hannum? let's continue.
Did he play this
I honestly don't know. How about here's an interesting one: Valerie Mondahano. I think it's the last one I got for you.
That one's so hard because she won a tournament. She comes back off the broken ankle or sprained ankle. I don't even think it was broken. I don't think she had surgery or anything. So comes off the ankle and gets a win. Gets 30th in the Pro Tour standings. Yeah, like you never want to come off of an injury year, but she made the most of that year.
I agree. I don't think it's bad. I think,
I don't think it's bad.
She
I don't
already
think it's good.
signed after the big year last year. And I'd be surprised if Discraft let her walk given what she's shown them over 2 seasons.
I think the problem with Discraft is we've got too many on the FPO
And that's
side.
where we're going to get to it right now. You ready? What did I say? Holland Handley question.
Yeah.
Here it is.
Yeah.
If you are Discraft, what is your priority order of signings in FPO?
Okay, so their list. Give me the list.
People who are up this year, Paige Shue, Valerie Mondahano, Holland Handley, Alexis Mondahano, Vanessa Van Dyken, Missy Gannon, Paige Pierce.
All right. Number 1 has to be Paige. No question in my mind. Number 2 has to be Missy. No question there either.
Over Holland, both of them.
Yeah. I mean, Missy just wins the Pro Tour Championship. She's a former winner of the Throw Pink Women's Disc Golf Championship. She also won Ledgestone. Big Money Missy sells discs, and so
to be fair, I agree with you. I'm just
making sure,
putting it out there.
Yeah.
Valerie or Holland, Josh? It's got to be one of them.
Valerie or Holland? I'm gonna say Holland. I think 2 reasons. Number 1, I think Valerie has shown us her ceiling or close to it. And I don't think we've seen it from Holland. I think Valerie can win a couple tournaments and is a good player who's going to hang around. But I think Holland has the capacity to be a ultra dominant generational player. Number 2 is I think that Holland has a better, and I would have to go check, but I think Holland has a better social media presence. I think she is good with, like, her YouTube tutorials are some of the best in the sport. She is an excellent coach with a deep understanding of the game that is a valuable asset at a time where it feels like disc golf is slowing down. When you can offer more than just buy my discs and just buy frisbees, and you can offer lessons and you can get people and keep them engaged in the brand in a different way. I think that offers more value. So I would pick Holland.
Yeah, I think Holland is dealing with a little bit of fallout in terms of popularity from the way that the Throw Pink ended. And whether you think it's justified or not, I think it's true. But I also think that people will forget that over time, that it's like a temporary thing. And there's just a lot of people who really want to see Kristen win because she's number 1 right now. But if Holland continues to play well and doesn't find herself in similar circumstances where people think she's trying to cheat, basically, then I think people are going to forget about this incident, because I think that she's genuinely like an interesting and, good to talk to, knowledgeable player who I've never seen any sense that she's trying to cheat. So
right.
I think people are going to forget about that. And I just think that ceiling wise, she may be the one that you would want to invest the most in right now. If we were doing stock purchases, right, on these players, are you buying Missy stock right now, or are you selling?
I'm holding my Missy stock.
But you're probably buying Holland.
I'm buying Holland stock.
And you might buy Valerie, and you're probably either holding or selling at Paige. I don't know. Unless you think she's got the big comeback in her. So anyway, it's an interesting conversation. I think I agree with your list, but it's if Discraft is feeling like they have to figure out how to allocate their slots on the top team, I don't know if you have room for everybody.
I think the Holland and Valerie. I think the team's
hard for me to imagine that they're both not on elite team though. Is that what they call it, elite team?
Oh, whatever that team is, I agree.
All right, what's the next one?
Yeah. Why Are Trees gets the second one. Another good one.
Last question.
What would be the most interesting storylines next season? Examples. I love these two examples. Macbeth returns to prime form. Paige returns to prime form. Why Are Trees took the most obvious answers
for 2018. Please take me back.
Yeah. So Why Are Trees gives the most obvious of all of them. Charlie, what are some other interesting storylines that are not Paige or Paul?
Well, obviously, it would be very exciting to have those players be back. Yeah, and like not even necessarily like prime form, but like competitive at the top tournaments again. Obviously for me, Calvin winning a major and getting over this sense that he can't close out the big ones. That would be that's a storyline that we're going to be talking about for years to come. It feels like until it happens. Another big season from Simon. Eagle being like player of the year type candidate after surgery.
Yep.
Kristen doing it again, running it back and winning all the majors again in 2024.
I'm going to give you a opposite side of the coin for Kristen. Kristen semi-retires and just plays European.
You love this. What you keep coming back to this, and yet there is no reason to think it's going to happen. She is the richest FPO player in disc golf right now. She's making bank. She just set the record for all-time earnings. Why would she walk away?
Because there's more than just disc golf. And I think now when Kristen is like the top, you step out and you find opportunities that exist that are not just competitive based, and she gets to stay home more. I think that if she makes that decision, it's going to happen when we least expect.
Well, you're going to look like Nostradamus if this happens. I'll tell you that. But I don't expect that at all. She seems obsessed with disc golf. When she loses, she's pissed. When she makes a mistake, she is pissed. I hear you, right? She has a young daughter, but she's rich enough now. She just bring her daughter with her on tour. Homeschool the daughter.
And she does.
She's rich. She's disc golf rich now.
And you're right, but that's still hard.
I'm not saying it's not hard. I hear what you're saying. I do think that Kristen, looking ahead, should be thinking like Macbeth and thinking about how do I diversify my disc golf portfolio. Yes. But I don't like. I feel like you say that all the time that like Kristen's going to walk away.
Do. I tell you, I think within the next couple of years, that's the decision she'll make.
All right.
I think it makes sense to do it on top.
Would it be the one that I would? It would definitely. The question said most interesting. That would be incredibly interesting. I don't know that it would be good, but it would be interesting.
No, not good. I didn't say good in storyline. I think a Hall and Ella battle where like the two of them are dominant. Right, both are getting multiple wins.
Yeah, maybe they like start to hate each other because they're like battling. Again, interesting.
Former friends. Yeah.
Frenemies.
They make a bet about whoever wins the first major and like takes the bet too far, like have to like get a tattoo and they put like their name on it or something.
You have to tattoo my name on your back.
That's right.
What about Own? Is there an Own story? I mean, Own winning a major would be just insane, incredible.
It would be insane. It would be insane. I'll give you another one. European domination.
Oh yeah,
not just
MPO
Kristen,
European appearance,
and not only like MPO but FPO too. Like Henna and Evelina are winning tournaments, and Nicholas and you got Silvasaar and you got
Henna and Evelina learned to putt. Oh. It would be incredible. Oh man. Yeah, there's tons of stuff. I mean, you take your pick, like, all new major winners next year. A major sweep in MPO. Like that's the beautiful thing about sports. That's why we watch. Because there's always a story. And you don't know where it's going to come from a lot of the time. And when stuff pops up that is just unbelievable, it's so fun to watch. That's why we tune in. So I'm already excited for next year. I'm glad it's cold. I'm glad it's quiet right now. You know?
Yeah.
I'm glad it's quiet right now because players need to get into the lab, need to get into the field, get into the gym, need to get ready to get better for next season.
I think that ends our mailbag.
I think that does. I think that ends our show.
Great point.
Thank you for being with us on this Thursday. We appreciate you, and we look forward to talking to you next week. And we've got a bunch of kind of different sorts of shows coming up soon. I'm going out soon, 2 weeks-ish. So we will keep you posted on what the plan is going to be, but we're going to try to get a bunch of stuff recorded between now and then. And we're going to do some roundtables and all that good stuff for the off season. So stay with us. We'll talk to you next week right here on The Upshot.